Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today I thought we'd continue where we left off by doing some more action on the beach. But before we get started in earnest, I thought I'd just do a little bit of housekeeping, in that I had a wonderful suggestion to improve my scene from last time by just adding a very small 1x1 green tile, and I've used a quarter circle tile there. I can actually look like the lady's actually holding her bikini bottoms in her hand and was definitely in the process of putting them on. And I thought that was a really good suggestion and one that makes the scene that little bit better. Another thing I've done is add these two roof features that I made from parts in my last brick haul. First one was using the parts from the Tokyo architecture set to make solar panels. You see I've got a little sort of control thing on the side there, and they're slightly tilted towards us so we can see them, and hopefully they use that to heat all the water in at sweat. And then the second one is this huge air conditioning unit, which will mean the users of the gym will be able to remain that little bit cooler. And now the roof, far from being flat and boring, is absolutely laden with big bits of kit now. So I really like the aircon unit with its nice big fan and that huge wheel casing. And the tiles on the bottom just mean it's very flush with the surface. And those patterned slope pieces are really good. So happy with both of those. The improved at sweat. Now, in deciding what to do next for the beach, I've been looking at the bigger elements that I could include first, because it's always important to get the big things in place before worrying about all the little things. And one of the big things that I had left was this, which is the Beachside Vacation Set 31063, which is a very attractive sort of stripy beach hut, and it's got this nice hammock sort of built into its legs. I've had it in storage, so half of the legs have fallen off, but it's one of those sets that sort of is either double width when it's got its open back, or you can kind of fold it back on itself and create a sort of tiny little quarter-size modular self-contained unit. So I thought I might include that around my beach, but the question is, where will it fit? Now, I already don't have enough room at that end of the beach, so if I'm going to include it at all, I think it'll have to be at this end. And just sort of thinking about it very, very roughly, it'll either need to be sort of about here, sort of front and centre, or tucked back into this corner, if I'm going to use it at all. I think it does fit generally this area well, because obviously it's on stilts, and therefore the main building will be at the same level as either the boardwalk or one brick higher than that, the main street level. So I think it would work. And then you'd have a sort of shady area underneath, which would have this hammock on and so on. So I do think it works. I think the corner might be better if it's to go anywhere. And that's really just because if I put it here, then I've kind of created a bit of a dead end here and a bit of a dark corner that's very hard to see, and it's not, as impressive. And having this right tall right at where I stand is probably going to be a complete obstacle as well, and a pain in time. Though I do like over here the fact that half of the stilts will be in water and half on sand. See if I can balance that there. Yeah, I think that, though, is quite a good bookend to the beach. So I'm going to probably try and play around with fixing that in place. And much like I've done with the steps and even the shrimp shack, this has got a brown plate layer as well. So if I make the legs the right height so the brown plate layer lines up with this brown layer, I can really sort of integrate it, I'm going to say it again, seamlessly with the sea wall. At the moment it's clashing with these yellow modified plates I've got, which I was going to use for down and up lighters, but I suppose if this is there it won't be needed. So I'll probably have to get rid of, what, 1, 2, 3 of those. Yeah, I think it definitely warrants more investigation. So what I'll probably do is break the building part off all the wooden structure underneath and see if I can get the wooden structure working well. And if I can do it in one piece, I'll be able to sort of balance the building on top and sort of imagine what it looks like. So I'm going to try and do that. Right, well, here's the platform in. It's a bit sort of shaky and wobbly, but you get the idea, just temporarily positioned. And if I put the beachside vacation house on top, we can get an idea of what we're dealing with. And I do quite like that. I do like the colouring of these stripes, especially, and the bright yellow doors. So I think it looks quite smart. And because we wouldn't need fencing around these two sides where we've got the wall, we could actually have the fencing continuing along here and going around to this corner, which would be very nice. We will have to completely redo this building though, because we've got at the moment a door going off a massive vertical drop at the moment. But yeah, I think that looks quite good. Now what I could do further is actually really build a platform into the wall and actually go an extra stud back and an extra stud in, so it's really built into the wall, and that'll save even more space for our beach and might look even better. Yeah, okay. So I think we're going to commit to this. So therefore I'm going to do the base in properly with the hammock at the front and so on. And then we'll do the building properly on top of that. I don't think I'm going to have a ladder up from the beach to the building because we've got the stairs so nearby. It just doesn't seem worth it. Right, so I've prepared the site for putting this building in, and you can see I've piled up some sand in the corner and added a few more sort of sand details, half of which are recycled from the Shrimp Shack Attack set that we used earlier. I've added a few more sort of curved plates and wedge plates as well to give it a bit more texture, because it would be harder to get under here later. And I've added the 4 legs in place of the 3 light fittings like these. So those 2 can remain, but the other ones get in the way. And I've reinstated the fence along the back because I figure there's still a drop from the brown layer to the layer below, and I'll probably have my diner seating along here as well, so we don't want the 2 getting too mixed up. So if I add the first layer of this, now you can see I've actually got it overlapping, whereas before when I sort of offered it up, I did it like that, and that's just because I didn't really want to have one plate width or one stud width of brown showing once the building was on. So I figure if I do it this way, I think I should be able to push this down, then it will be a straight edge with what will essentially be a tiled area, and I think that works really well. So these supports have just been moved in one in order to support it. I mean, arguably this whole set of supports on this side isn't necessary because it's resting on the wall, but I still think it looks better with all the legs, especially when you consider the front bit has to have something to hold the hammock. So then that bit will go like that and firmly on that wall. So now, with the help of building it up 1 plate of sand and 5 bricks high of stilts and arch pieces and all the rest of it, I've got my brown level for this absolutely the same height as my brown level for the rest of my boardwalk edging. So that's a really good match. And then somebody asked for a Paradisa minifigure. Well, they asked for a set, but I don't have a Paradisa set, so there's a Paradisa, well, torso anyway, not a whole minifigure, that I can add to the hammock. There we go, looking good. So that means I can put the fence directly onto that now, and have the fence continuing on around this edge, which will look really good, I think. But I think the next stage is to put the building in place and work out what on earth we're going to do with it. So before I do the building, I've just completed that fencing. I was very keen to get that done. I'm really happy with that. It's actually worked out amazingly well with the spacing up to this corner. So very happy with that indeed. So here's our old building. It's a bit wobbly because it's had everything structural removed from it. And roughly speaking, it's going to sit somewhere like that. It's having a bit of issue because of the window ledge on the back and so on. But you can see that's working pretty well, I think. But we don't want this door overhanging this drop. We probably do want a door on this side. That side's completely blank, which isn't great to have here. And then the forward side's got a great big window, which is a bit odd facing onto the boardwalk. So I think we arguably need to do pretty much like that, except obviously then the orientation doesn't work. But I think we need to have a window overlooking the beach. That makes a lot of sense. A door onto what is sort of like a balcony. Makes a lot of sense. Another door facing onto the raised area. And then the blank wall, which maybe we can cover with some advertising or something like that in due course, at the back here, which will just be against this fence, this drop, and the boardwalk, which we won't see much at all of. So I think that's the idea. So basically I'm going to have to take this completely apart and then kind of build it back up. I like the roof being this way as opposed to left to right. So I'll keep it front to back. But I think in order to build it, I probably need to position all the doors and windows where I want them and then build up from there. Right, so I've added one layer of bricks all around the bottom just so I can plan what's going to go where. And I've got the two doors in and the window with its nice awning. And it's a bit limiting what you can do actually. For example, I've got this door a bit too near these steps for my liking. And that's because you only actually get 1x2 bricks in one of the colours. So essentially, I've got no odd numbered bricks in order to make this just in one more. So I'm going to work with that. If the worst comes to worst, I can always move these steps actually a couple of bricks that way. I don't want to have to do that because I'm always ripping things up to continue, but nonetheless, I can. So I'm going to go forward on that basis, and I think I can build up everything using the exact same number of bricks as I did before. And then there's the other problem. What is this building actually going to be, sited next to two diners on the beach? I gave it some thought, and I think I've come up with a really good idea. I mean, what would you have in a seaside resort in Britain if you wanted some food? Well, I've had a lot of ideas, and thank God I've come up with a good idea for this place. Haha, yes, puns ahoy. It's a fish and chip shop. What an awesome idea. Can't believe I didn't think of it earlier. Now, if we're going to make this into a successful fish and chip shop in this very, very, very tight space, I'm going to have to do the inside planning before I build all the walls up. So, I'm going to raid my parts bins and see what I can come up with. Okay, so there's two constituents to fish and chips, as you probably well know. Fish and chips. Now for the fish, I don't think a sort of slimy, silvery fish looks that appetising. And when I was hooking these out, I actually thought, hold on, an orange fish looks a bit like a fish done in batter, as is the traditional way for fish and chips, as anyone should know. So I thought that that would represent a cooked fish, and this would represent a raw fish. And likewise, a tan 1x1 round plate can represent a raw chip, and a golden yellow one can represent a cooked chip. So that's what I'm going to use as the basis for my offering. So with that in mind, I've made a little sort of frying window where the cooked goods are shown. So I'll put my cooked fish in that. and we haven't got a lot of space, so we can't get too fussy about locations for everything, but that's there. And then on the top of that, I'm going to have some ketchup in a squeezy bottle and some vinegar for your chips in a sprinkle bottle. And I'll put that on the top there. Then we need a till. So I've done a very small one because that's all we've got room for. And I've got a couple of controls there just for the 2 deep fat fryers. So that can go there. Now for the fryers, I'm using a combination of panel pieces. So I've got a 1x2 one there with the sort of divider in the middle of it. So when you've got 2 of these corner ones as well, it will make 2 little deep fat fryers. So put all those in, and then you can have one for fish and one for chips, or just one at a time. And I can put a couple of chips browning in those. So there we go. Let's have another one. Why not? Cool. So there we've got lots of chips cooking. We've got a fish ready for sale, but then we need the raw ingredients as well. So for a bit of colour contrast, I've got a 2x2 container there with a wet fish. And I'll put the other one in there as well. And then for the potatoes, I've got a little table, sort of preparation area, and I've got a sack of potatoes, of which some have sort of fallen out, or maybe they've just been peeled, ready for chipping. And I thought that would go there. So that's all in front of the window, which is here. This would be the sort of staff door on the side, and then the customer door would obviously be here, and they'd approach the kiosk from the front. So I'm thinking that looks really good. I'm very impressed with how much fun stuff I've managed to squeeze into such a small area, if I'm honest. Right, so I need to start adding all the windows and doors back, and then I can build up all of the walls to enclose this wonderful scene. Right, that's starting to look good, I think. It's quite an efficient feeling when you use all the bricks that you started with once, just in a slightly different order. So I quite enjoyed doing that. And you see I've kept the 2 lanterns, one near this door and one near the door around the front. I've also added a sort of tile door handle so it's easy to open. And for the second door, I figured because that was a commercial one, I'd probably want to have a glass door. So I've gone for a glass door with another yellow tile handle, and I've put an open sign on there, and that was just from the recent sticker pack. So that came from there. And then I can put that in the front. Yep, that looks good. Then I've also got a position for a flag. We had a flag on the original set, but I'm just changing the flag to this one. And that's a proper sort of beach flag. It came with a couple of the SpongeBob SquarePants sets, the Krusty Krab and Krusty Krab Adventures 3825 and 3833. And it just means that there is no surfing or motor water sports at this end of the beach. So this is sort of the quiet end, I suppose, as demonstrated by the lady in a hammock. So great, we've got our lights, we've got 2 doors, we've got the flag. I think I might do something a bit more interesting with this window box. I've added an air conditioning unit to a modified brick in the wall, and because that's got studs on both sides, I'm actually going to add something onto that blank wall. And I've chosen this. You might remember it from one of my recent brick hauls. It's just an advert for Bob Fizz's soft drinks, which I figured could be the name of the sort of toxic yellow coloured drink that I'm selling in all my drink stores, which makes me think of Mountain Dew, which is kind of rocket fuel, which is good fun if you've ever tried it. Not for the faint-hearted or the diabetic. So I thought that could go on the back wall of here. And that tile is from 8186 Street Extreme. All right. Okay, so I've also, you might notice, have added modified tiles so I can have a roof that lifts on and off, because The thing about this being so small and so crammed full of detail in the chip shop is that you'll never be able to see it unless you lift off the lid, unless you really crane your head and look through the glass door. So I'm going to have a roof that isn't ready yet, but will roughly sort of sit on the top like that. Where's the other half? And kind of like that, but I'm going to do it a bit more structurally sound than in the two pieces it's currently in. Yeah, so I'm really liking how this is turning out so far. And here's the roof pieces recycled into a roof. I've kept the window on the back, and that's just so the back's not a complete unbroken wall across its entire height. And then we've got some more stripes on the front, but that fits rather well and obviously can be lifted off to look inside. So that is great. And I like the fact that the open sign in this dark blue colour actually matches the tile colour as well. Now, as anyone who knows me or knows my city will tell you, I'm a big fan of 3D signs, and I was thinking of a way to make a fish and chip sign on the roof with some chips and a fish, obviously, but I wasn't getting very far. And then I remembered one of the pieces I bought in a brick haul for my underwater scene, which was actually a Duplo piece, and it was this Duplo Fish. And I thought, well, when I got it, I was very unimpressed with it, to be fair, because I thought, well, it doesn't really look like a fish. It kind of looks like a silly impression of a fish, really. So I sort of put it in my probably will never need these pots box, never to be seen again. But then I remembered I had it and thought, oh my word, that might be perfect for here. So what do you think of that? I think that's absolutely amazing. A real happy coincidence, but that just looks brilliant to me. I mean, what do you get in this place? Well, fish. Brilliant. Really happy with that. Right, so now I just need to put in a person who works here and maybe a couple of customers coming out, and then I think we've done this fish and chip shop. Right, so now to add some life to this shop with its wonderful big fish sign. And the first one I want to add is the chef, who's wearing a very, very dirty, ripped and stained tunic, front and back. And she's got the sort of facial expression that says, have a nice day. Not. So I'll put her behind the counter. There's not a great deal of space, which is probably why she's stressed. Okay. And then for the food itself, I thought that people would need to be eating it on tables out here or what have you. So I've come up with this. And it's one of the fried fish on a clip on a plate with some of the chips. So basically you can just tuck into that. So I thought I could give these to a few people around and about, and they'd be satisfying their hunger. And with that in mind, I thought a couple of hungry rugby lads, so this is the rugby player from season 19, with a plate of fish and chips, could have just come from the shop. I will be tiling all this area in due course, but for now I'm not going to because I've got other big structures to put in. And then a second rugby player, same body but different facial expression and hair, who's unfortunately being attacked by a seagull, and I've attached that to a chip piece with a hole in it, so it's the modified one, and got one of these new trans clear sort of action pieces that come with the DC minifigures of the recent line. So that means he can be sort of in an action swooping phase, and unfortunately that's caused this guy, who's very surprised by this attack, to spill his chips all over the floor. Nightmare. Well, anyone who's been to a UK seaside resort, you'll probably have experienced this directly. I know once I was eating a pasty in Cornwall, and a seagull took a great big bite out of it while it was in my hand about a foot from my body, but I didn't let go, and I did eat the rest of the pasty. Anyway, I think that's a pretty fun scene for this area. Tell me what you think. This scene's even more funny from a lower down angle, I think. Looks really good. Maybe another seagull's teeing up a dive for the next guy as well. I've also added some brush under here that's very hard for you to see, but it does sort of show that the area is more unkempt and overgrown. And I've replaced the flowers that are here with a lot brighter set. Good. And then just for a starting point, I think I agree with the people who suggest that the outside tables for the diner need to be on the boardwalk, on the edge of the beach, and not over there near the main road. That doesn't make a whole heap of sense. And obviously I haven't tiled this area or anything yet, but I figure getting some tables with alternating cloths of white and the pink that's in the sign for the diner and the flowers and so on, and these sort of metal cups that you get nice posh ice creams in would be a good start. And then I have loads of people all around these tables all having a great time. So I think that's a good start there, but I do need to do a bit more work. Now another suggestion I had, which I quite liked, and I was all prepared to get going with it today, was to put a bus stop about here using this kind of useless piece of real estate, if we weren't going to use it for the diner seating, to good use. And I thought it was about the right depth and everything else. And the good thing about a bus stop is it kind of doesn't matter which way it faces because it looks good from every angle. So it would really work well. But then I remembered that my main train station is going to be just the other side of these two rail lines. And therefore I'm going to have a bus stop outside there most likely, and probably a taxi rank. So maybe this is a bit near. So, I'm not so sure now, so I'm probably going to pass on that and put one somewhere else nearby, maybe just a bit further that way near the arcade or something like that. So now for the vehicle of the day. I still haven't forgotten. This one is a wonderful tow truck with the City Towing logo on the top. So I really like this. It's a good size and looks very utilitarian. So it's all right by me, and it's bright red colours and it's tools on both sides and so on, and this lovely chain sort of dangling off the back. The only modification I've done is actually just used a piece that I had spare that was the same piece but a stickered one that's just got these black and yellow stripes on. So that's the only change I've made, and I realise I do need to add a driver before I can add it to my city's roads. Now that is from the Tow Truck Trouble set 60137. Right, I need to get a driver. So there's our poor rugby player being attacked by a seagull. It happens to the best of us. Chips all over the floor, what a nightmare. And there's his pal probably having a good laugh. And our wonderful fish sign on our converted beachfront vacation place. Lovely hammock down here. First bit of sculpting in the sand. Flower box. Our flag. Wonderful sign again. The starting of these tables. I really like the cloths. They're the only pieces I had in that colour. Literally all of them. So anything else in that colour I'm going to have to order. Still got that area. Tell me what you think about using that for up there. They're high a bit. And there's our tow truck with driver now. And that's another big feature on our rapidly expanding beach. I was going to add another modular in there, but I don't think I'm going to do too much to modify them. So I'll probably add both of them next time. And let's not forget the wonderful change we made over here, putting her bikini bottoms in her hand. I love that scene. It's so funny. He looks so enthusiastic at running towards the sea. You can hardly blame him. very good. So again, the city is shaping up quite nicely. So I am really happy with what we managed to achieve today. I think it just looks fantastic inside and out. The whole scene in there looks great with the very dirty chef cooking a lovely fish and chips with ketchup and vinegar. An easy to lift off and put back roof with a wonderful 3D sign. And I just adore this scene over here. Chips everywhere. Looks fantastic. And we've got the opposite right down here with the peaceful hammock scene. And it's all blended in very nicely. And we've even managed to get the beginnings of the outdoor diner seating area. So I'm really happy with how this area is shaping up. I am aware that it needs a heck of a lot of minifigures to make it look really busy and happening and bustling. But that will come in due course. I find it much easier to get the bigger things in first. I'm also going to do some gaming machines for the promenade here and add those modulars and do some even more fun stuff. You'll have to let me know if you want me to take a break from the beach for a bit and go on to the main railway station and come back here, or maybe do Mondays on the station, Fridays on the beach area or something like that to kind of mix it up. I don't want to get too typecast after all. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, well, it's kind of up to you. Should we start the main railway station, or should we continue down here with the beach? I'm happy to do either, really. Anyway, whatever we do, I'll see you next time. See you!